you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic, psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep. I'm soul by funky. Hey. Soul by funky. I'm soul by cosmic soul.
Good day, everybody. This is Alan T. Black.
And Nicole Lewis.
And we want to welcome you to the Arthur's Authority Lounge, the official TV show for Arthurs. We're always excited. We're always honored when we have a chance to have an Arthur come in and share their story, share how they went from A to Z to become an Arthur. So we're excited to have our guest here today. In fact, he and another young lady just co-sponsored a big event here in our city in Omaha, Nebraska about a week ago. So we're going to have him share part of the story behind that, but as well his journey to becoming an Arthur. Nicole?
Thank you for being on our show. Thank you for coming. I am excited for today. I'm excited. It's been a while, we were messaging back and forth, and then we finally got to meet each other at your event, and that was amazing.
Thank you.
Give us your name and who you are, and let's just start there.
My name is Eagle Feather, and I am an Arthur mentor, and I'm trying to be a public speaker because public speaking is something I love to do.
Okay.
So Eagle Feather, where did the genesis of becoming a writer, then morphing into an Arthur, where did it begin?
Ooh, that is a deep story. It started back in 2005 when I was incarcerated. I went to prison when I was 18 and didn't get out till I was 37. So the genesis, as you call it, came in 2005 when I was in solitary confinement. And I was in cell block 220, and I had been through the ringer. I mean, it was just a horrible, horrible experience. It wasn't my first time in solitary confinement. I spent a lot of time, but during this one particular time, I was under a lot of stress because one guard said I had threatened him. And I don't know if you are familiar with the prison system. This is a maximum security penitentiary, 22-hour day lockdown. So in that environment, when you threaten one guard, you might as well threaten them all, you know? So I was put through the ringer, and I had a nervous breakdown because I was sleep deprived. I was hungry. I was thirsty. It was just a whole thing. And during this mental breakdown, I had an epiphany. And then from there, I guess I had a realization that it was my actions that put me there, you know, and nobody was coming to save me but me, you know. And so from there, I've always had an overactive imagination. So one of my ways of escaping solitary confinement was through writing. So first I started with poetry, realized I wasn't that good at it, but then started just writing, just living through the pen and paper.
Amazing, amazing. So you had a transformational moment.
I did, a literal spiritual awakening that completely changed my life.
And so we get to witness that transformation as we get to meet you now, because obviously we didn't get to meet you prior to, so we get to see you after that transformation. So what are your books? I see multiples.
The first book that I actually wrote was Spiritual Warfare. It's an urban novel based on the streets of Omaha, because at that time, that's all I really knew. Like, you could tell the main character in this book was going through a transformation himself. Like, he was still battling, knowing and understanding the difference between right and wrong. And he wanted to do good. His heart wanted to do good, but his environment kept trying to pull him back. And so he was struggling with good and evil, love and hate. And so, I mean, we all have the spiritual warfare that's going inside of us, especially when we come from an environment where we're surrounded by gangs, alcohol, drugs, things of that nature. And you have a lot of people that can make it out, but unfortunately, you have a lot of people that lose that spiritual warfare and they end up in a penitentiary as myself. This one is The Lost Mine, is a historical romance novel that takes place prior to the arrival of Europeans. So there's bows and arrows, spears, and things of that nature. And it's basically a Mayan was lost in the Midwest. The enemies, which were the Crow tribe, was trying to capture her. So the Lakota stumbled upon her and then trying to transport her from their hunting grounds back to the village for her protection. But along the way, they meet so many different enemy tribes, and they're trying to capture her. They're trying to wipe them off completely erase their history. And this one, I just wanted my logo on there because I'm so proud of it. My name is Eagle Feather, and this one is basically a short story collection because I didn't want to get pigeonholed. I didn't want people to think that I can only write about urban stuff, the streets, and I didn't want people to think that I can only write about Native Americans. I just wanted to show the full range that I love writing, whether it's about zombies or
Okay.
science fiction, things of that nature. I just wanted to showcase my talent so I didn't get pigeonholed.
So let's go back to your first book. You said, and let's hold that up if you would. That one is, you said, Spiritual Warfare, which is an urban
Novel, yes.
So Eagle Feather, as far as the character in the book, how much of Eagle Feather is in this
All of it.
book? Okay.
All of it. Of course, a lot of the scenarios exaggerated for entertainment purposes, and all the main characters are fiction. But what I wanted to try to do is draw off of life experiences of not only what I've been through, but what other people have been through as well. And so the main character, especially when it comes to understanding love, like just this book, Joshua Lone Wolf, I mean, he's me, half black, half native, trying to grow up in an environment where he's just surrounded by negativity and just knowing right from wrong, wanting to do right, but this environment is just extremely difficult.
I love it. I like the diversity because oftentimes authors find themselves in one space. So like you, Alan has a diverse background in writing. You want to share a little bit of your diversity?
Well, sometimes I don't think about my diversity, but Eagle Feather, my origins as a writer come from the music side, as a lyricist. So actually I'm a lyricist, a poet, and then became a Christian author, and now I'm going back to the lyrical side of Alan. So as Nicole was saying, I think it's so important that we as writers first and authors secondary are able to express as much of who we are and what we're about by virtue of what we share.
Yeah. And I love this duality of having both your cultures intermingled into your writing, because I feel like I don't think we've had another Native American author amongst our mix. So you are the first.
Oh, yay me.
But it is important for us to get diversity. It is important for us to look at somebody who has been in the streets and does know. So you, without knowing it, you've got three cultures that you're implementing into this, because you have the street culture, you have the black culture, you have the Native culture. And so intermingling what that looks like and having that experience is amazing. And then I know, as an ex-librarian, I can say that now.
Use us.
The urban fiction realm was one of our, urban fiction and anime was two of the highest books that was being checked out in our community. So you've already touched on so many different things, and people who have not lived that lifestyle live that lifestyle through
Vicariously, yeah.
Yep. And so they don't go into that lifestyle because they have that ability to have the outlet. So I appreciate that aspect of things.
So Eagle Feather, as you have written a total of 3 books, correct?
Yes.
From book 1 to book 2 to book 3, what have you learned about Eagle Feather?
Well, when the first book, Spiritual Warfare, was published, I was not yet a mentor. And now I've come to learn through Youth 360, Jennifer Clark, that I love mentoring. I love reaching out to these young kids. And so when this was published, I had no idea that I was going to get into mentoring. Had I known, I think I would have changed the language that's used in here. So with that being said, now that I am into mentoring, I wanted to clean up the language so that it can reach a broader audience. My first book was basically, like you said, for people who come from that environment. And again, I didn't want to get pigeonholed, which comes from the short story collection. So the growth is I feel more responsible for what I put out there. So I feel like I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution. And so you can see the evolution as far as the material itself, whether it's not glorifying the street life or being part of the solution. I don't know if that made any sense. As I'm talking, I'm saying, I'm like, okay.
It makes perfect sense. So
does.
I will say this as an author myself, and as something I was worried about because the content of my book is pretty raw.
Yeah.
I will say this, that allows it to be relatable.
Mm-hmm.
So don't change your words. It allows it to be relatable. Our children nowadays, just like you said, when you went in, I know there was a conversation that we had off camera, but as you went in, we didn't have the social media back then. We didn't have access to our phones like kids do nowadays. So their exposure to stuff, I remember, I'm pretty sure you guys remember, when there was a time when the radio didn't play cuss words.
I remember.
Yeah, that's
There
true.
there was a radio version.
Yes.
And I remember when movies, like I'm looking at the ratings of movies now and I'm going, this was like rated R and it's now PG-13. And I'm like, what? Like, what happened? Like, when the ratings change? So don't feel like you need to change anything. If anything, because it's so raw, it allows that conversation to take place.
Oh yeah, this one is raw, real rugged, full of emotions. The emotional roller coaster that the main character goes through is just, it is raw and it is uncut, unfiltered, and even sometimes when I read this, I still get emotional about it. I remember when I wrote that.
That's good because, and I'm currently editing my second book. And that's the conversation I'm having with my editor, is how important it is. If you're not feeling it, your audience ain't gonna feel it.
True.
And the impact that they get to see you, they get to have that conversation about characters. And because it's not a based on true story type situation, it allows for that fantasy space for them to have conversation in hypothetical when this may be their real life.
Yeah.
But they can use it as a hypothetical. Hypothetically, if this is what happened. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing about editors and publishers and stuff like that, they don't understand. A lot of times, like my editors, they was trying to change up the language and change up the words. And I'm like, that doesn't fit the narrative. Nobody from my background would understand that. Right. So it got to the point I got so frustrated. I was like, look, don't touch anything. Like, yeah, what about this and that? No, don't touch anything. It was just frustrated. It's like, well, this word is misspelled, so what? Leave it alone. Like, I don't know. Because they was trying to use that hard R, And I'm like, no, that's, because they don't understand where I was coming from. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And at that time, my audience would completely understand where I was coming from. They didn't. So they was trying to change all the words to hard R's. I'm like, no, you just don't touch it. Don't touch anything. So I get it. Sometimes the publishers and editors, they don't understand it, but it's not for them.
Well, and I do. What my authorship has led me into now is actually proofreading and editing. Yeah. So what happens is you have two different positions. The editor and proofreader sometimes is looking at it from the structural academic aspect of A, then B, then C, without realizing that if they go in and change it that way, it compromises the integrity of what that author is trying to share. So that becomes a conversation, just because I've been doing this for a while, where the author and the editor, at least to me, have to talk and say, okay, why is it saying this? Because I need to know before I make the suggestion to change or arbitrarily change it, because the process of changing it can potentially compromise what it is that you're doing. Question for you. So you wrote 3 books. How did you feel after you got the first book out there?
I felt accomplished. I felt like it was a new path that I can take. So, I mean, my first 2 books, I had nobody to celebrate with. So I'm up in my flat, my single bedroom apartment, celebrating by myself. So, but to me, it was like another door was opening for me to basically get my story out there.
I love that question I have. So what inspired the love story?
What inspired a love story was, I don't know. It's a love story because the Mayan woman was trying to be rescued or protected by the Lakota man, but there were so many rigid rules, laws in the native culture that prevented them from taking it anything but a professional level. And I think that in a lot of environments, especially in rigid societies, whether it's in the workplace or between client or whatever, there's a lot of rigid stuff, but we're still emotional beings. We still have emotional feelings where we feel anger, frustration, love, and things like that. But there's a lot of different rules that keep them from exploring that side of it. So even though it is a love story, there is no physical contact because of these rigid laws and rigid rules, but the emotions are still there, and it explores the emotions that are being felt by these 2 people, not able to explain it to the other one, but it's felt.
So it's kind of like that forbidden love.
It's the forbidden love that never took place.
I love that. I love that.
That's interesting because in that capacity, that can be fulfilling and it can also be haunting
Yeah.
as well. So, authorship is now leading you into new territories. You said that you always wanted to become a mentor. At what point did you say, hey, I guess I'm going to be a mentor now? When did that happen?
Oh, I didn't always want to become a mentor. I always wanted to be a public speaker. The mentorship came in because of Youth 360. I used to pop in every now and again. Jennifer Clark had asked me to come there to deliver a speech telling my story, because unfortunately, a lot of those young boys are in legal trouble. And so me having a lived experience of being through the foster care system, group homes, mental hospitals, juvenile detention centers, juvenile penitentiaries, being through that at that age, I was able to better relate to them than someone who has a degree from Harvard or whatever. So she wanted me to go in there and share my story with them and maybe take 1 or 2 aside and explain to them the path that you're on. However, that pipeline from school to prison, they're all off ramps. So what can we do to find one of these off ramps so you don't end up in a situation I was in? So after doing that a couple of times, of course, I was working at OSI, which was a meat packing plant. I was making good money there. I loved the environment there. My boss was awesome, but it wasn't fulfilling spiritually. Even though I was making real good money, I was able to buy a Tahoe, a Hummer, an Impala. All of them have systems and rims. I mean, I was living nice because I don't have any kids. I don't have any other financial responsibilities. So I was able to buy these materialistic things, but they wasn't fulfilling. And so Jennifer kept asking me to come back, and I just fell in love with mentoring, because you have opportunity to talk to these kids, and it's heartbreaking knowing that some of these kids, they're not going to find that off ramp. They're not going to find the way to get off of that off ramp. Some of them, unfortunately, and it's heartbreaking to say, but some of them are going to end up in prison. But that doesn't mean the story is over, because even when you're in prison, you still have the capacity to change. That's what happened to me. So even though I'm talking to the individual right now, they might not be hearing me right now. But when they're in that environment, when you're in solitary confinement and you're sitting there thinking back like, man, how did I find myself here? They'll hear my voice. And so, and that brings me comfort. And that's when I just love mentoring kids. When I was in Newton Correctional Facility, I was tutoring math because at that time I became a math. Who knew that me being from the streets would be a math genius? So I started tutoring math, and maybe you're right, because I remember, like, when you're trying to explain math to them, the different equations and things, every now and again they would, you see that light, and like, and I don't know, I got a kick out of that, when it finally clicks, and they be like, so maybe you're right. Maybe that's something I really did want to do.
It's almost like, in a way, there is the conscious recognition
Yeah.
that I'm going to be a mentor. But a lot of times there are things in the past that you are unconscious of that are contributing to that moment when you say,
Yeah.
hey, I guess I'm a mentor. You look around and say, hey, how did this happen? Because you're saying, okay, they're looking at me with that spark in their eye because they got the math problem right, and they look at you like, well, Mr. Eaglefellow, he's the man. And you're thinking, well, how did I get to be the man all of a sudden? So,
And it's that feeds that spiritual child within.
Yeah.
To see that aha moment with somebody else and going, yes, they're not going to be another me.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you've come in contact with people that didn't have their awakening,
Yeah.
and they get stuck in that space, and you go, they've had their awakening before they even had to experience what I had to experience.
Yeah. Right now, I'm working with this young man. He's 15 years old, and he's half black, half white. His mother is white. And so he comes from that mixed background of not knowing where to fit in. Me being half native, or half black, I was never black enough for the blacks, never native enough for the natives. So I was stuck in between. I didn't have one side to belong to. So I was always like wandering, like this wandering star, wandering from place to place, trying to find somewhere I could fit in. And the reason why I see myself so much in him is because he has little brothers and sisters, and unfortunately, because of my actions, which led me into prison, I wasn't able to protect my sisters, and so I'm trying to explain to him, like, you have a sacred mission in this world to protect your little sister, and I wasn't able to do that. And I see myself in him, like, you have a mission, you have to stay free because you have to protect your sisters. This is an evil world that doesn't care about your sisters or your little brothers or your mother. So you have to be the man to protect and to provide. So I'm not trying to get emotional.
No, it's good.
As soon as I start talking about that, each and every time, it never fails, because I wasn't there to protect my sisters, and so now I feel obligated to protect their kids, my niece and my nephew, so.
Eaglefellow, you never apologize for passion.
Oh man,
passion comes out, and when it comes out and you articulate something, if the passion is there, it takes over. It almost becomes a different part of your personality that you're like, oh, did I just say that? What just happened?
And see, my thing is, I like, men cry, they do, but to me, you're just a crybaby if you don't do nothing about it. So it's good to cry, because you need that physical cleansing. But if you just sit there and cry and not do nothing about it, I'm like, man, you just a crybaby. Get up and do something about it. So that's what I'm doing with mentoring, especially with kids like the one I'm talking about, so he doesn't have that same emotional baggage when he becomes older, and that's why I take an active role in my niece and nephew life, because unfortunately I wasn't there for their mother, but let me show you how to live a better life. So I'm not just sitting there crying about it. Like, if you're going to cry about it, do something about it. So that's why.
So that kind of segues me into what you're doing with your literary festival that you just had. How did that come to be?
The reason I wanted to create a festival is because Omaha is big enough to have our own. Yes, we have the zoo, but if a person wanted to become an actor or a singer or a writer, or go to some type of festival, whether it's the independent film festival or anything, they have to leave Omaha. Or if they want to go to a professional NBA game or NFL game, they have to go somewhere else. Omaha is big enough. We should have our own. You know, Omaha is big enough where you shouldn't have to go to New York to find a festival or an award show, or go to LA, to Hollywood to be in a movie or anything like that, because we have studios here. I believe Omaha is big enough where we can have our own. And my thinking is that if I get the ball rolling, somebody smarter than me will pick up the torch and run with it. The reason I say that is because take something like, for example, Burning Man. That just started with a few people, and now people from across the nation comes there to participate. Or the Independent Film Festival. It started with just a handful of people, and now people from across the nation go there. So I figure with the book festival, the literary festival, it'll start with just a few people. And it gets to the point where we can host our own award shows where people from Arizona, people from South Dakota, New York, and even LA will come here, because it becomes a beacon for writers. Okay. At least that's my thinking.
Well, and that's great, because every major accomplishment, if we can call it that, has to begin with the first step.
It starts with the first step.
So we're getting close to the end here. So first of all, congratulations on the festival last week. I'm assuming that that's just the beginning. There's something else in the future.
Yeah, we're holding the next one. Everything is tentative right now, but we know for sure it's going to be March, whether it's March 20th, March 27th. We have it in the works. We're working on it right now as we speak.
For 2027?
For 2027.
Okay, good. Now, we also need to get your contact information. Give the audience, like, how can they reach you? Because you want to be a speaker.
Yes.
And so we want them to know how to contact you, where to get your books as well. So just look into the camera and you're good.
You can find any of my information at eaglefeatherempire.com, or find me on Facebook. I'm still not good with technology. I need to get into Twitter and LinkedIn and all that, but I'm still stuck on Facebook. But you can go to eaglefeatherempire.com, find my link tree. You can find links to where to find my books, where to find my speakings, whether it's a TED Talk or anything like that. It's just eaglefeatherempire.com.
Okay.
So you kind of just threw that out there.
Oh, he did. He did.
You caught that, right?
I caught that.
What
TED
else?
Talk.
TED.
Oh. Yeah, I did a TEDx Omaha Talk. Shout out to my coach, David,
Okay.
and Strawberry, and of course, Terry Lee.
Okay.
No, that's fantastic. So you keep saying you want to be a public speaker.
Yes.
And I would say, don't say you're going to be a public speaker, because you are a public speaker.
I want to be a famous public speaker.
Okay,
An
that
influencer.
may be in the works, but right now you are. If you're doing TED Talks, you are a public speaker.
Yeah.
And
wanna
you're
be a
speaking from a
famous one.
platform with authority and with reason. So don't say that you're not a public speaker, because you are.
Yeah.
Go.
So I know we're getting ready to wrap up. Where can they actually get your book? Are you on Amazon?
It's in Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I know for a while they were selling at Target and Walmart online, but I'm not sure if it's still there, if the books that were sold was replenished or not, because they've been out for a few years.
Okay.
But if you go to eaglefeatherempire.com, you can find links to where you can get the books, where they're still available, of course, which is Amazon, Barnes & Noble. As far as the mega stores like Target, hopefully, but I'm not rich yet, so I
Okay.
won't bank on it.
So, Eagle Feather, we thank you for coming,
Thanks for having me.
and it's an honor. Audience, support this young man. He's on his way to great things. And hey, I'm Alan T. Black.
Nicole Lewis?
We want to thank you for watching this episode of the Arthur's Authority Lounge. We look forward to having you come back and meet the next great Arthur. Y'all be blessed. Take care. We're out.
What you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep.